Welcome to Decoding Raw. My name is Eric, known on the internet as Tubby Emu. I cover professional wrestling for a living, but the way I've done it in the past, I've never been happy with it. I wanted to dive into more discussion-based conversations with my audience, fans, wrestling fans around the world, and that's what Decoding Raw is. Now, if you have opinions, please leave them in the comment section below. If you want to write them out in paragraph form, feel free. Anything is better than the show sucked without giving reasons or explanations. We're going to be diving into all 14 segments on this episode, and we're going to be talking about what could have possibly went where, or how things possibly could have been handled a little differently. But seeing as how I'm not a TV producer and I don't make the WWE millions of dollars, it may be pointless, but they're opinions that the wrestling fans in general may share. Decoding Raw is brought to you by WrestleCrate. If you are a wrestling fan and you want to get wrestling goodies shipped to your house every single month for the low price of starting at only $14.99, $29.99 for the Ultimate Crate, now shipping from the UK, WrestleCrate.co.uk. Code Tubby also works over there. You can get the original box of wrestling goodies shipped to your house every single month. Every month, the orders stop on the 18th. Your box will approximately arrive a week or two later, and you can expect that every single month. Use code Tubby, WrestleCrate.com. All right, let's dive into the first segment of Monday Night Raw for the 523 show, and it opened up with Seth Rollins. Huge welcome back chants that went crazy. Some of the talking points that Seth Rollins brought up were 200 days since he's been gone. He's never lost. Did you miss me? And the yes chants go crazy. Now, this is an area where WWE, whether it's right or wrong for Seth Rollins to be heel coming back, he could be a huge babyface. And most people's reaction is, well, Roman is getting booed. Why not make Seth the face and have him win? And the bigger question people should be asking is, why in the hell would Seth Rollins be a face in the first place? His whole reign, his whole everything was built on the fact that he did whatever he could to win the championship, to retain the championship, and doing every dirty heel tactic possible. He comes back from an injury, and now he's supposed to be face. His slogan, rebuild, redesign, reclaim, is one of the best slogans. I consider it like hustle, loyalty, respect for John Cena. As a face, he could make huge money. The fact that he comes back from injury rehabs, never gives up type thing, but that is John Cena's shtick, and I'm cool with it. Once Cena leaves, maybe he can do it. He talks about his knee buckling from carrying the company for so long, and he's talking about all the fans who are sending him get well messages, fan mail, etc., and he basically said that he put it in a garbage can and lit it on fire, and that he did everything. Now, a lot of Seth Rollins' talking points were great, and they made sense. Now, I was one of the people that said it should have been a face Seth Rollins, but the more I thought about it and really thought, what reason do we have for him being face? And we really don't have any. Now, I know what you're saying. We have a Seth Rollins heel, and we have Roman Reigns who people boo. The main event of Money in the Bank is going to get booed out of the place. It won't. People will cheer for Seth Rollins, even though he's a bad guy, because they want to see Roman Reigns get beat. Roman's music hits. He comes on out, and Rollins kind of steps out of the ring. Shane McMahon's music hits. He comes out to talk, and he basically makes the match. Now, I posted this on Twitter, and some people have brought up kind of the same thing. Yes, I'm aware of the fact that Seth Rollins never lost, and Owens did, in fact, lose, but Owens has a rematch clause. When you forfeit a title, you do not have a rematch clause. You just never lost the title. In Owens' case, he had a match. He lost the title. He came out, tried to demand his rematch, and Shane McMahon, the face GM, said, I don't think so. You're going to have to earn it, which doesn't really make much sense, considering the fact that Rollins, also a heel who just came out and crapped on the crowd, was agreed with that he never lost the title. A little bit of a wonky thing in my mind. Some people said, well, Owens never lost and all this, and he had an opportunity on a Fatal 4-Way. That doesn't matter. You have a one-on-one match. I'm sure it's getting buried now for the Owens-Zayn thing, and we'll see it down the line, which I'm perfectly cool with. Basically, we now know the main event, and like I said, whether you're going to cheer him or you're going to boo him, it's going to be a hell of a show. Roman Reigns definitely did a great job. Very limited, no action tonight for him, which I actually was really digging. The fact that the Usos were kept off the show and weren't a part of this, also a great segment. I did give this segment a check mark, in my opinion, which it served its purpose. Not necessarily that it was good or bad, but it served a purpose for the show. Next up, Sheamus versus Sami Zayn. This was a 2-segment one, so we're going to have to talk about the segments a little separately. The opening promo for Sheamus was that it is a new era, and he's basically making fun of Sami Zayn's name. Now, here's the thing. He brings up the fact that he's from Canada, and then Renee tries to say he's from Canada. Sheamus isn't from the U.S. either, so it makes it a little weird. The fact that he's picking on him for his name is kind of weird, but the fact that he's calling out guys from the new era and basically being a heel was a great way to present Sheamus, and I was really happy with it. Out comes Sami Zayn to start the match, which is great because in other segments, which we'll talk about later, they came out later and it didn't happen right away. I thought this was a good transition. In the match, not a bad match. Here's the thing, Raw the last couple weeks has had awesome matches, but absolutely no consequences to fighting for. Tonight, you are fighting for a Money in the Bank qualifier, one of 5 matches that would happen tonight. Sheamus versus Sami Zayn would end with Sami Zayn getting the win via a haluva kick out of nowhere, which I thought was great. But the big story out of here is, yes, Zayn did get his win. Zayn did make it to the Money in the Bank qualifier after weeks of not being able to win or pick up a victory. Finally did, and that goes to show that Sami Zayn in matches, he may lose, he may come up short, but when the money is on the line, when the chips are on the table, those losses that everybody keeps complaining about, that this man is buried, he's not doing anything, he won when it was on the line. And that is all that matters. Shining spot of this for me, though, is Sheamus seething after the match. While Sheamus has been a heel somewhat with the League of Nations, Sheamus's heel tactics have not really shown through in the past couple months, and did an absolute great job. And I love the fact that the commentary brought up the fact that Sheamus, the man who won last year, didn't even qualify this year, brings significance to Sami Zayn's win, and show in contrast to the fact that he beat a former Money in the Bank winner and a man that successfully cashed in to win the title, even if that title reign did not last very long. Good points on commentary that made this segment good. I did give that segment a check mark. Coming back from commercial, we have an Apollo Crews promo. And Crews is starting to go on a promo. From Twitter, I've seen some people were talking that it may or may not have been good or it wasn't going anywhere. And then out of nowhere, the seething Sheamus, the continuing a segment that if something happens in segment 1 and then it just dies in the show and you have 14 segments, nothing runs over, nothing carries over, doesn't work. You had the seething Sheamus who is sent to commercial break, and he comes back, and what happens? He unloads on Apollo Crews backstage and basically welcomes him and throws down the gauntlet, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. Sheamus as a heel is great. And here's the thing. In this new era, you're going to need the veterans. You're going to need the guys that have been around a long time, and that's what Sheamus can provide, and that's what I thought. He played the role absolutely perfect, and it's looking like we're going to get an Apollo Crews versus Sheamus feud. Or maybe not. We have a Money in the Bank qualifier that Apollo Crews is in. We're going to talk about that segment coming up here shortly. Kind of a shorter one. New Day comes out, and when New Day's music hit, I was happy, man. I was like, what are they going to do? New Day every week has great mic skills. They're just absolutely killing it. And I brought this up the other week when they promoted pizza, and you saw the behind the scenes from the commercial from Raw on Up Up Down Down's YouTube channel, that the New Day are the guys that the company can use to shill out stuff, whether it be $9.99 or whether it be them using them, which they did, to have a birthday cake just to basically pat WWE on the back for being on air for 1,200 episodes. And happy birthday, WWE, even though the Raw started in January, and it's technically more of an anniversary for being on air for 1,200 episodes. Whatever. They did make the best out of it. The segment did feel a little weird, especially if you're a hardcore wrestling fan. You got a cake being brought around. Some people may or may not be able to connect with that, but I thought it was great when they were about to throw the cake in JBL or Byron Saxton's face. And then something that surprised me huge was it was unannounced who their opponents would be, but Social Outcasts come running down and attack New Day. And big boos to this. I thought that was great. But then you hear on social media, they were like, are you kidding me? Social Outcasts are out here. What are they doing? Why? Oh, get them off my TV. The same people that every week complain that Social Outcasts either aren't on TV or all 4 of them lose to Big Show or all 3 of them lose to Big Show, and the fact that they're treated as a joke. But when they run out and attack the New Day, those same people flip-flop for the fact that they're on TV instead of guys they enjoy even more. A little hypocritical, but I'm fine with it. In the match, this went 2 segments. It did go to a commercial break. And then when they came back, eventually the New Day got the victory over Heath Slater. Great segment where in the match they pulled out Heath Slater from the ring. They go to do the bow run around the ring. And around the first turnbuckle, Heath fell flat on his face, which I thought was absolutely amazing. I loved Heath Slater doing that. But New Day did get the victory. In regards to the segment and the actual, I consider segment 4 is Apollo Crews being attacked backstage, Sheamus being the heel. I give that part a check mark. The New Day segment, I do give a question mark to I don't know what it accomplished. Not that it wasn't good or entertaining, but in the aspect of Monday Night Raw, it was just it was basically a glorious promoting of the fact that Raw has been on air for 1,200 episodes and didn't serve any purpose to either set up a new number one contender or have anything of substance. So I did give that one a question mark. That doesn't take anything away from New Day. Moving on to segments 6 and 7. Miz and Maurice come out, and I've said this before, and I'll say this again. If you're a heel in 2016, or you're trying to say relevant, and still get the crowd to go against you, watch tape of The Miz. Not something I'd ever thought I'd say in my life is watch tape of The Miz. Miz knows his role, Miz plays his role, and does an absolutely fantastic job. Whether you love him, you hate him, or you think he's an absolute dick, he knows what he's doing, and I'm very thankful for The Miz. I never used to be, and I took him for granted, but he knows what he's doing. This is where I absolutely loved it and fell in love with how this happened. They're going through their promo. They're about to kill each other. Cesaro's music hits, and he comes down to the ring. And eventually we're going to go to commercial break. And during the match, Miz is working on the shoulder. And I thought this was great. Cesaro was just in a match last night, one hell of a brutal match. And in the match, Miz started targeting that shoulder, and Cesaro went for the giant swing, but he couldn't swing him. He dropped him after 2 rotations because he was selling. He was selling an injury. He was selling a story of Miz was working on his arm. He was not able to do it, even though he showed feats of strength throughout, maybe from adrenaline, but when the time came to it, he was not able to do it. The word is selling. Cesaro, absolutely phenomenal job of selling. I thank you so much. Cesaro qualified for Money in the Bank. The big thing I got from this is Miz looked great. Miz knew how, as a heel, to work a body part, to bring up that hope spot for a Cesaro to eventually get the victory. Miz is IC champion, does not make it into the Money in the Bank qualifier, but it does not matter. And come SmackDown, it will be Cesaro versus Miz for the Intercontinental title announced on the show. Moving into segment number 7. We had a flashback to the Money in the Bank main event and the Raw opener from the show, which good way to tie it back like they normally do. Then we have a Seth Rollins promo backstage. Now, I gave this one, by the way, the previous segment, the Miz Cesaro thing, I 100% gave a check mark. It was an absolutely phenomenal segment. One of the best on the show, from Miz doing the Miz thing, Cesaro selling an injury. The match itself may not have been a 5-star match, but it served its purpose. Seth Rollins, the promo backstage, and then Stephanie walks in, and Seth's happy. And he finally says, I've been looking for you. Your brother gave me the title match. And that's when Stephanie brings up, it's great, welcome to have you back. But things have changed, and our business relationship is no longer the same. And it is, in fact, over, which Seth Rollins seemed a little shocked about. Absolutely great segment to kind of tie up those loose ends that people may be wondering. Is he still in the pocket of the Authority? Is he going to get the easy match? Well, it looks like it's brother that was given the match, not Stephanie, which in terms of building on last year and showing that this really is a new era, the fact that Shane gave him the match and not Stephanie, and Stephanie then had the promo to follow it up and say the business relationship is over, fit the story, fit the purpose, and was a great part of Monday Night Raw. Thumbs up, check mark on that segment. Then we go into Jericho versus Apollo Crews. Jericho comes out selling the thumbtacks, looking pissed, looking disgusted, looking like he doesn't want to be there. 100% positive pro. As much as I hated their Asylum match, I thought it was slow-paced. I thought the tacks had absolutely no purpose being in that match, storyline-wise, and really was just a pointless bump for Jericho to take. The fact that he was selling it the next night on Monday Night Raw was absolutely fantastic. We have the recap. from Extreme Rules, and then we have a Cena promo going to commercial. This is where things really pissed me off. You had the segment earlier, if you go back approximately 3 or 4 segments, Apollo Crews was attacked backstage. Now, theoretically, in an hour, could you heal up and be better from a backstage beatdown? Yes. But the fact that Apollo Crews, who I like and I think could be a star, and eventually maybe one day be a world heavyweight champion, comes out smiling. And I'm just sitting there, why? I made a Vine, it had over 1,000. I'm like, okay. Cesaro sold the shoulder. Awesome. Jericho sells the thumbtacks. Awesome. Fuck selling from Apollo Crews. Absolutely pisses me off. And I'm not just saying this without rationale of why I'm pissed off about it. Because in their match, Apollo faced Chris Jericho, and the match itself was kind of sloppy. There was a huge botch at one point, and actually when Jericho hit the final code breaker for the 1, 2, 3, Apollo Crews, you could hear mouthing, I'm sorry, man. Basically realizing he fucked up. And then this is where I bring it up, and this is why I was upset. Commentary said, you have to wonder what effect Sheamus had on that. We don't know what fucking effect Sheamus had on it because Apollo didn't sell it. This is WWE. This is storytelling. This is a guy I like. This is a guy showing that he's still green. Even though Uhaa Nation knows what the fuck he's doing, he didn't sell it. If you're going to be the happy-go-lucky guy that doesn't sell, that's okay. Come out and wince. And then you have commentary go, yeah, he's in pain. But you can just see the fun, the adrenaline, the high-flying. It just pumps him up. In the words of Instant Gratification, which you guys can watch on CM Pulse's channel, great first episode, loved it. He's fun to watch. That's annoying as hell, which I agree. You guys can check that out. Twitter.com/CM Pulse. Check out Instant Gratification. Great show. The best show. As we go into that, I gave that segment a huge question mark. I thought it was great that Jericho won. The fact that Jericho continues on. Normally in his runs, he's just putting people over. This year, it's different, and I like it. Even though the match last night completely sucked. Coming back, we had segment number 9 with Darren Young. Great again. I just don't get it. I know what they're doing it for. They're doing it to try to stay irrelevant with the political aspect of Donald Trump. And I think, the more bad it is or the worse it is, the more people get on Twitter and be vocal about it, which is cool. But if you're trying to make somebody great again and kind of get him over as a face and people are hating on it, it's not really working. As far as satire and the reasons for them doing it with basically everything that's going on with Donald Trump, I get, and it just wasn't working. Corbin interview. I actually really like Corbin's interview. You may or may not like him, talking about beating Ziggler. And then Ziggler comes out and starts talking about being the best technical wrestler. Your match at Extreme Rules was a no disqualification that didn't have any weapons, anything. It was not a technical match. The fact that you are gloating about being the best technical wrestler means nothing. Being the best technical wrestler doesn't get you on the top of the show. Sorry. Okay, for Daniel Bryan it does, not for Dolph Ziggler. The fact that he brings up that if you want to see a real match, and again, a technical match, watch his match that was coming up. Not really the biggest fan of it. The segment itself, I did give a question mark, even though I thought it was okay. Corbin is looking good. Out comes Big Cass. Big Cass comes out. The crowd pops, and then he waves, and Enzo comes out. How you doing, Chance? How you do, Chance? Just light up the crowd. Enzo's promo was great, talking about he forgot to pay the electric bill, the hard sneeze, the dab, everything that happened. I thought it was great. The Dudley's music hits. They come out, and they're talking about everything. And once that happens, they basically have a match. I thought it was going to be a tag team. I'm glad they didn't do a tag team. It was Bubba versus Big Cass, and Big Cass got the win. Nothing really too special to talk about, but I'm glad that Enzo was back, and the segment worked for me, incorporating Enzo back in and then having them pick up the victory while still making Big Cass look great on national television for the 3rd week in a row with a win. Good for Big Cass. We move on up into a commercial break with the State of the Women's Championship coming up, and that's where things kind of went off the tracks. The segment itself served its purpose. I thought it was great in terms of getting rid of Ric Flair, in terms of Charlotte's words, a lot of things that you weren't there for me, and I never had the courage to tell you to basically, fuck off until I realized that I am the champion. I am great. I finally have the courage to tell you to screw off and to get out of my ring, and I can do this on my own, which is perfect, except for the fact that there was nothing that made Charlotte actually turn on Rick. There was nothing that Ric Flair said that should have set him off. He should have said something like, oh, it was a great idea for me to do that so you could win, and that's where she freaks out or she does something. I think she needed a reason to turn on him, and the fact that it just kind of came out of nowhere didn't make sense. Now, the promo was slow. It was clunky. It didn't work perfectly. It does show that Charlotte still has a lot of work to go, but for the actual segment itself, it played its purpose. Ric Flair went away crying. Charlotte did get a lot more brash on the mic and did good, did stumble. And in the words of Instant Gratification with CM Pulse, if things don't go perfectly, Charlotte does seem to get a little weird out there, which it did show through. But the actual promo itself, my biggest notes were Rick should have misspoke. Rick should have said something to set her off. I love the fact that she brought up you were never there, and I never understood why. And then I had to watch you on TV, but now that I am a champion, I understand it. And that kind of passing the torch was great. And when he left, they faded to black. Coming into segment number 12, we had Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler, the Asylum match recap. And the crowd is fucking dead. This is a night where, for the first time in a long time, all the matches have stipulations. Every match that was on TV had a reason for being there. There wasn't a match on this card that, why the hell are they having this match? You could say the Dudleys and Big Cass, but I don't believe so. It's a great way to bring Enzo back, keep protecting him for a little bit, and have Big Cass looking strong. But this match, the crowd was absolutely dead. There was no reason for them to cheer. One of my lower matches on the card tonight, and I don't know why. Ambrose is this guy that's apparently so over. Ziggler, one of the internet old favorites, guy that should have been everywhere, not getting cheered. And I see all the comments on Twitter and social media about he's just trying to be Shawn Michaels. And at this point, I've turned on Dolph Ziggler. I'm not at this point where what he's doing is ever going to work. And I don't think he has to stop doing what he's doing. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know what it's going to take for Dolph Ziggler to finally understand that. I don't know if this is going to lead from anything. I don't know if him bringing up the technical wrestling is going to do anything for him. But in this day and age, being the best technical wrestler, it just isn't there. Seth Rollins, absolutely phenomenal technical wrestler. But he's talking, the way he works, the way he be squirmish, heelish, it works. Ziggler, it just doesn't. He's going to put on some great matches. He's going to sell like crazy, and that's what you want. But in this segment, it just didn't work for me. Ambrose qualified for the Money in the Bank briefcase. Backstage, we had Ric Flair walking back. Arn Anderson has his condolences, tries to hug him. Renee tries to interview Ric Flair. Ric Flair has nothing to say. I'm glad they followed up on it. Once again, this is something that if something happens in the show, you should touch on it a little bit later. And I thought it was a good way to do it. We go to commercial with Styles versus Owens up next. And the previous segment with the match in the backstage, I gave the backstage, it was a good thing. But since it was all in one segment, I did give it a question mark because I didn't dig the Ambrose Ziggler match. We come back, we have the Shining Star vignette. And thank God it's a vignette because putting them on this show would have been pointless. But they talk about how their debut was unbelievable. And did you hear that crowd? And I made a Vine saying, what crowd? Now, I don't want to just hate on Primo and Epico because when they first came out as tag team champions on their first run, I dug it. Then they got repackaged once or twice. And then now they're coming back with this Puerto Rico gimmick. Well, Puerto Rico's going through a huge crisis. And 120 plus people a day are defecting to get away from the awful country. And I say awful is in terms of the way the state of the country is in money. Puerto Rico is beautiful, but the financial state of the company being held hostage by hedge funds and debt, and when you have residents leaving, and then you have them like, oh no, come down here, it's beautiful. It does kind of work, and it makes sense for why WWE is doing it, but how many people don't know that Puerto Rico is struggling, and they're in huge financial crisis because of the laws regarding debt and everything that's happening. So I get why it's happening. It's just not getting over with the crowd. And then here we go. Time for the main event. Styles comes out first, and he's basically talking in his promo about putting over Reigns. The crowd hates that, but I'm fine with it. We hear huge talks on social media about how he's buried, even though he's in the main event of Monday Night Raw. He talks about having his Money in the Bank qualifier and that he's going to do it on his own, and he brings up if it wasn't for us, and he's talking about if it wasn't for the Usos and Carl and Doc coming out, that he would have been champion. And that's when the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, come out and say, if it weren't for us, you mean us? And they basically break up. They talk about AJ wanting to do it on his own, that he didn't get these guys into the WWE to come watch his back. He just brought him in to create a legacy. He wasn't trying to create this huge thing that just goes around destroying people. He wants to do this on his own. He just brought in his friends, his brothers. He wants to keep his professional. And that's what Carl Anderson and Doc are like, no, that's not what you're saying. You would have had if we had your back, you would have bought us drinks and Roppongi. The fact that he brought up Roppongi, great reference, love that. The segment itself basically led everybody in the world to think, okay, we're going to have a big spot here coming up in the main event. They're going to come in, they're going to interfere, we're going to get the Baylor Club debut, and then we'll talk about that in a second. As we had it, and this is where things kind of really hit home for me, especially in the booking aspect. If you are a guy that comes out there and just made evented 2 pay-per-views in a row, you had your first WrestleMania match and you lost, and yes, you did have 2 pay-per-view matches in a row where you lost, right? Daniel Bryan wins the title after months of getting constantly taken away from him. So when he finally wins it on the grandest stage of them all after 8 months of being screwed, it's the biggest pop in the world, and people absolutely loved it because the journey to get there is almost more important than winning the title itself. So just to have AJ win the goddamn title already, no. AJ overcoming all of this, eventually probably having to go up against the Bullet Club and trying to beat them or being taken down by them, will eventually lead to AJ Styles overcoming and trying to make them a huge face in the company, or maybe with a faction in some way, shape, or form, like I've talked about previously. Maybe Team TNA. But in terms of this actual show, what it set up, the fact that they basically said, we're done. We're not brothers. We're not friends anymore. The mindset of AJ being like, oh, shit. And then he has to go into a match after just having a brutal one last night. The psychology of that. Your friends that you brought in we're done. We don't want to be friends. That has to be weighing on your mind a little bit. AJ said it's my ring and we have no use. And they get out. When AJ Styles says on commentary, it's my ring right now, this is a commentary line that could be used for a promo package down the line. This is where Decoding Raw comes in when I talk about the commentary. That, no. AJ Styles can get attacked one week eventually, and the club, the Bullet Club, the Baylor Club, whoever's club or whatever they are, can say, no, this is our ring, leading into a promo to a pay-per-view match. Huge thing on commentary to pay attention that you may have missed. Hopefully it leads to something. Styles versus Owens, I actually thought it was a pretty good match, man. Owens got the victory clean, which led to everybody now bringing up the fact that AJ Styles is buried. The way AJ Styles is being booked, this man is buried. Yeah, because true buried superstars like guys that just left the company, Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow, who constantly pitch things to the company and storylines, they would have killed to been in the main event, even if they lost 3 pay-per-views in a row, instead of sitting back and catering, eating the chicken, and watching those other guys have a goddamn match on TV. If you use the word buried with AJ Styles, I 100% think you do not know what the word buried means. And, the big thing that people brought up, well, yeah, he lost, but does that really do anything for him? He was in the main event. It is leading to something. The group that he brought in that had his back, well, guess what? They now are no longer friends. They didn't run in the main event. They did break it up. You're wondering, okay, they teased the fact that they were going to come in, and they didn't, and it led to a slow build, which, what does that mean? You wonder next week, will they run in next week? Is this the week they snap? Is this the week they get the club? It is a hook for television, and it is something WWE did right. It is called a slow burn. I am all for it, and that will do it. That will do it for the show. as in that match, and this is where I'm not deconstructing Extreme Rules, but I hate the fact that people say that, yeah, he lost, but he lost with one spear. Okay, you must have missed the 2 tables, the being thrown into the barricades, being smashed off the thing, the double super kicks from the Usos, the splash from the Usos. Oh, by the way, did you remember that second spear that Roman Reigns ran on the outside, jumped off of the stairs, and speared him outside on the padding? Uh-oh. But it's just one, because Roman Reigns kicked out of 2 Styles clashes, one on a chair, and Superman kicked out. He's been booked as Superman. AJ Styles just coming in as a guy that is doing his thing to just win out of nowhere without having the trials and tribulations. Daniel Bryan never gave up. Even though he kept losing, he kept getting taken down. He eventually won, and that built up into Daniel Bryan and what he is doing, why he's fighting. AJ Styles is getting that. Be patient. Wait for it. And if this leads to eventually them doing absolutely nothing with AJ Styles and being fired from the company a year later, come back and talk to me. But right now, this is called a slow build. This is a story, and this will lead to something great for AJ Styles. I am all for it. Goes off air. He was powerbombed on the outside on steel steps after last night's match, and then when he goes for his finisher, Kevin Owens hit the rope. He lands essentially a low blow, and then Kevin Owens hit the pop-up powerbomb. It was not a clean. It was a clean win for Owens technically, but in the terms of booking, this man took a powerbomb on the steps, took a second powerbomb in the ring, essentially had a low blow before that after the night before having a brutal match where he was viciously put through tables, speared, everything. If you think that is bad booking, well, we're having a discussion so you can have your opinion. Just let me know why you think it's bad booking. So that'll wrap it up for the first ever Decoding Raw. Now, based on how people normally rate Raws from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, I will be using a similar scale, but because we are decoding each segment based on whether or not it fit the purpose of the show, my point system is different based on the fact that WWE normally runs 12 to 14 segments a show. The numbers will change each week, but this week, to get a perfect score out of 10, you needed 7 points. Each segment needed to be perfect, with 0.5 being awarded. Absolutely no filler on the show is a point, and 2 for being entertaining and did it serve its purpose. Well, out of 14 segments, I gave 9 segments a check mark, which 9 segments times the 0.5 is 4.5. Out of the filler, I thought there was absolutely no filler for the most part. I give it the full point, so that's a 5.5. And then last but not least, 2 was the entertainment there. Did the show serve its purpose? And this is where I'm going to give it a 1 out of 2, and we will be giving the show a 6.5 out of 10. It was not a bad show in any means. This is one of the shows that WWE just lacked the excitement of previous matches from other weeks, but all the matches had a reason for being there. All the promos, segments, nothing felt random or out of place. It just may not have been that exciting to watch. But the show itself, as a TV show, building to something down the line, hit many key points, so I will give this show a thumbs up, check mark. I want to thank you guys very much for tuning in. I hope you guys kind of enjoy this, and this is something I do want to continue doing down the line. And I do want to thank, again, WrestleCrate. If you want to get your own WrestleCrate, don't wait, man. Sign up before the 18th of each and every single month to make sure you get your crate shipped to your house, starting for only $14.99. If you want to get the ultimate crate, get that t-shirt, maybe some figures, autographs. There's some cool stuff in those crates, starting at only $29.99. If you lived in the UK before, maybe you thought about getting a WrestleCrate last year, and you're like, yeah, but the shipping was too much. Well, they now ship from the UK, so you can get WrestleCrate.co.uk, save on the postage, save 10% with that code. So if you sign up for the Ultimate Crate, you're going to save about $3 off your first crate. Great deal. Sign up. I highly recommend it. And until next time, thank you very much for watching Decoding Raw. If you want to check out my other podcasts, you can at WrestleCrateTV.com, where we take you beyond the crate, diving in, talking about the crate, Raw, SmackDown, weekly stuff, and pay-per-views. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. We will see you next week. If you guys want to see me decode some other shows, whether it be Lucha, SmackDown, or NXT, let me know in the comments section below. But that is for another time. Until next time, we will see you all later.